Hi everyone, I'm back. It is Tuesday, April 3rd? Yeah, April 3rd, sorry. I've been traveling a lot, as many of you know. I've been on the road in New York, in Washington, in Connecticut, in New Jersey, and in Kentucky between family, business, and teaching. I have been all over the East Coast this past 2 weeks, and I got home last week to a little surprise. Again, some of you may have been aware of that I already had construction going on here in my studio where they dug up the floor, the perimeter of the studio floor to complete the drainage. I'm in the basement of the building I live in. And I came home to the surprise that my studio was filled with stuff again because the construction for the bathroom on the other side of my studio was being done and I didn't know it was happening. So I kind of had to spend a couple of days cleaning up again and getting ready to do it live because I haven't done one with you for a while. I know many of you who are subscribers, and by the way, thank you for subscribing, have not gotten notifications about a live. It seems to be there is a glitch right now in the program for ManyChat, which is the program I use to set up my live scheduling and have all my subscribers be notified, and Facebook. And as far as I have been able to determine, it has to do with the new perimeters that Facebook and protocols that Facebook has put up. So I beg your patience. I won't be putting out any email notifications about upcoming lives until I can get this cleared up. Worst comes to worst, I have to clear the program out and start again. Fortunately, it's fairly new to me, so while lovely, I will email you or contact you all personally if need be and say, hey, please re-sign up, but I'm hoping that's not what has to happen. Okay, so the fun part of today. Today's video, I'm going to angle down a little bit because I feel like I'm looking at my own nose. So today's video is about playing with pigments. Now, I'm a decorative artist, and you all know I'm a faux effects instructor, but I also use products from all kinds of companies in all kinds of ways, and I try to see what I can make work with what. Meaning that whatever I have in my studio and whatever I have in my shelves, if it's interesting, I try mixing it together to see if it works. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes it's a miserable failure. So far, I haven't managed to blow anything up, which thank God I'm very grateful for. I have enough chemistry knowledge to know things are a bad idea. As a matter of fact, I happen to have a candle burning right now, which I'm about to blow out, because we will be using some oil-based products, which are flammable. And again, I don't want to blow up my studio. So let's get into the products that we're going to be using. I'm going to be testing everything with a few water-based products and one oil solvent-based product. I don't traditionally work in oils, so I won't be mixing any oil paints. I don't paint that way, but I do have some oil and solvent-based products that sometimes I add pigment to get colors to it. So here, I'm going to lean over and show you all the products we're using today. First one we're going to be using is Aquastone. How various pigments take into Aquastone. Aquastone is a water-based faux effects product. Has a little grit to it. When you trowel it on, it looks a little cementy. Very cool stuff. The next product I'll be working with, palette Deco Clear. Again, a faux effects product. For those of you who are familiar with gel mediums, it's like a super high quality, super shiny gel medium that holds its shape really, really well. It's something I use to mix all kinds of stuff into, so it's a big go-to in my studio. The next product, oh my God, I can't reach, is Set Coat Clear. Another faux effects product. For those of you familiar with Set Coat, I don't need to explain the value of this. For those who are not as familiar with Set Coat is faux effects paint priming product. It is a super high bonding paint product that when it dries to the level of an oil-based eggshell paint, so that when you glaze and put things over it, it slides really nicely and you don't have bonding issues and you don't have the things drying. But I use it as other things. Sometimes I mix pigments into it and use it as a paint product alone. And the third product we're going to be using today is Golden's MSA Varnish. This is a varnish that, unlike a lot of hard drying varnishes, has the ability to be dissolved even once it's cured with mineral spirits. So I use that a lot because sometimes it has the ability to bond to both oil-based products and have water-based products laid over it, which is not typical for what we do in our industry. But sometimes in some of my fine arts work, I need to layer different things over each other and have it become bondable between oil and solvent and oil and solvent. So it's a really nice product to work with. So I've labeled each of the containers. Yeah, I know it's backwards for you guys, but this says Palette Deco Clear. I have set up a board in my chicken scratch, and that was not only backwards, but it was upside down to you all. So that when we test each one of these different pigment products and mix it into a base, you can see what I'm doing, and you'll be able to look down and see which product I'm doing it. It makes it easier. So I have a whole bunch of different pigments, and I'll introduce you to them each as we go along. Hey, Kate, nice to see you, sweetie. We're going to be using Mixx, which is a German-based company. They make both metal colors and they make solid colors, often used in things like lime-based plasters because they have a lot of oxide products, which means that they won't turn funky colors in lime. I'm using stuff from Guerrera Pigments in New York. I have both dry pigments and liquid pigments, which means that it's in a suspension that allows it to go into water-based products. The wet pigments you can't put into oil-based products because it's the base on there is water, so you don't want oil and water. Don't mix in a pot. We're going to be playing with primary elements, metallic pigments. I use them a lot. They're actually sort of a craft level pigments, but I use them to float into a lot of translucent materials for really beautiful layers. We'll play with Pearl-X pigments. We're going to check out Earth Colors of Provence pigments. I honest to God, I don't even know if Pigments of Provence is doing much in the way of business. I haven't seen them for a while, but these are what, I mean, the reason I'm showing this is that they're these ground earth pigments. And they're sort of natural pigments that can go into all kinds of products. Faux Effects Faux Cream Color, which I don't know whether you actually call it a pigment or a colorant because, again, it's liquid. So that's one of those things to do. And then I have these awesome metallic pigments that I had sent to me from Japan, which I'm so excited to play with. I have not really played with them since I've gotten them because I've been too busy. And then, oh, my happy fantasy here. At Salon in New York last year, I bought a whole set of blue Guerrera pigments because I love working with blue. And they're all these gorgeous, oh, I can't get it out, of course, these beautiful blues. And tons of them. I mean, I think there's 40 colors in here. I haven't even counted. 3, 6, 9, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 25. Okay, so I overcounted a little bit. Not 40, 25. We'll get going here. So I think what I'll do is I'll start with the Guerrera pigments because I'll just pull out one and we can talk about some of the properties of it. This is pretty cool. This is Cobalt Violet Brilliant Light. Okay, that's a powder. You can see it's a powder in there. And one of the things I did off of Guerrera's site is that I pulled off all the facts about each of the pigments because each pigment has different light fastness, which means it holds up differently to light, and it can be mixed in different products, but not everything can be mixed in everything. And this is a really nice guide to have. So this number on here is, let's see if I can find it on here. It says right here. It is number 45820. So I go into my little stack here. I look up 45820, if I can even get to the 45s. 45.7, 45. Okay, 45820 Cobalt Brilliant Light. So what it tells me here is it'll tell me Let me find it on here, so I'm doing it. It'll tell me that the light fastness, which is 8, and that's out of a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the least light fast, or 0 even less. And then it'll show me what it can be mixed into. So for Cobalt Brilliant Light, it can be mixed into oil products, acrylic, tempera, gouache, but it cannot be added to lime. It can't be added to cement or Tadlic, and it can't be added to potassium silicate. It means either those other products bury the color or break it down so that they don't want to work together. So with all the stuff I've got here, I can play with it. I'm gonna angle this down, get my papers out of the way, and we'll look at the mixing. Yeah, let's see how I do there. There we go. So you can see my surface here. I have plates, and I'm gonna mix. First, I'm gonna mix a little bit into some Set Coat Clear. And I may have to cut this back because we don't need this to be a 2-hour thing. I can get lost in this stuff. So here's a little Set Coat Clear. And I use popsicle sticks. They're called craft sticks. You can pick them up at any craft store like Michael's. And I'm just taking a little bit. I don't want to go crazy with this because I don't know how it's going to dissolve. Or if it is going to dissolve. It's, you know, how this mixes in is an interesting thing, although it's taking really nicely. You can see that I am getting nice dispersion in my solution. It's light. Of course, that's kind of the name of the product, though it's supposed to be light. I'm going to take a little aqua stone. Clunk. And mix it there. See how it colors this. Aqua Stone takes color nicely, but it stays a little whitish. But it looks like this is coloring it really well. The only thing with plasters and dry pigments is that you need to make sure that the pigments don't dry out the plaster so much, so you might have to add water to them as you go. So that took that really nicely. Okay, Palette Deco. If these water-based products took it, I'm sure Palette Deco will go really well with it. Palette Deco. And again, I'm being really generous with my pigments. I mean, I say that I'm not, but I'm not putting tons in. This is a very tiny amount. Sorry, I'm stuttering. This is a very tiny amount of product that I'm putting on the plate. So that means when I add what looks like a little tiny bit of pigment, I'm actually being pretty generous with it. So I realize that to get the intensity of colors that I'm getting at some of these points, I might have to add a lot more to a larger container. Okay, now here is my MSA Varnish. This is oil-based. This is the one that I'm not sure what will happen the most. Once I know something works in one water base, it generally works all right in most water bases, at least for dissolving. Although I did go through this list, and there are some pigments that the only product that it wants to go into is a gouache, which is, you know, a water-based paint, but it's not acrylic, it's not anything else. It just is what it is. So, okay, there's a little color for that. And normally I don't do all this testing at once. Ooh, this is going into this really well. Oh, I'm very happy. They weren't lying. It goes in oil-based products. I'm excited. So I'm going to take a brush. Just so everybody knows, I keep my brushes, oil and water separate. I have them in separate wraps because you don't ever want to mix them up if you can avoid it. If you get oil-based stuff on your acrylic brushes, you kind of ruin them for the acrylics because then the oil gets into stuff and it bonds weird. All right, so here's the MSA Varnish. That could put a nice bit of color in there. That's a good thing for me. Let's see if you can all see that. Of course you can't because I don't have the camera angled the right way. There we go. So you can see let me get this pigment jar out of there. You can see this is the Kremer Cobalt Brilliant Light mixed with the MSA Varnish. It took it really, really well. I'm very happy about that. And that tells me that almost every pigment that's in my set that says it can take acrylic, I can do this playing with. Where's my water-based brush? Here's my water-based brush. So first I'm going to mix up a little bit because I have a little chunks. I do this better when I'm actually working on a project. And here it is with the Set Coat Clear on it. I'm brushing it here. Took the color really nicely. I don't expect opacity out of this because I am working in clear product. I'm going to rinse my brush out a little bit. All right, let me get a little bit of the Palette Deco. Normally I don't apply Palette Deco with a brush, but this saving time. Palette Deco, took the color very well. Well, let's not put that into the mineral spirits to thin it. And then I'm just going to take my finger and smear the Aquastone because I don't want Aquastone on my brush. Okay, so here it is with the Aquastone. So those pigments took all of these products really, really well, and I'm very pleased with that. All right, let me put this aside. I think if Rima sees this, she would be like, "Oh, show me! Don't let me miss the Japan pigments." So I hope I'm holding off on those for a little while so that she can possibly be here to see me do them themselves. All right, what ones we're going to do next? Okay, the Pearl-X. I mean, not the Pearl-X. I'm sorry. The Primary Elements. Primary Elements is this very cool company that does kind of craft pigments, and I sort of stumbled on them by mistake. But what they also do, this stuff, once you get the right balance of it, will dry to like an automotive metallic color. I love it. Not opaque. It depends. The opacity depends on how much you put in and what it's covering. Like any metallics, it probably does better in a... Ooh, that got wet. That's not what I expected, so that one goes adios. Again, we had flooding, we had all kinds of stuff happening here, so every once in a while, open a jar and it's a little surprise. That was the surprise. Okay, we're going to use, what color is this? Blue Flame. The funny thing about these is sometimes when you look at the jars and the pigment colors often do not end up being the exact same color that you see. I keep a chart in my studio of every one of these that I own so that when I go looking for it, I know exactly what the color is going to look like as opposed to what the jar looks like. So here's the deal. I'm going to reverse a few things. We'll start with the product on the tape. So here we got Palette Deco, Aquastone. Now, I know some of you are going, why would you put metallic in Aquastone? That's part of learning. There's the MSA Varnish on the plate. And Set Coat Clear. Because I know not everybody who sees this understands about putting metallics into opaque products until it's demonstrated. So we're going to aim this down. You can see I have my products. It's a little hard to see, but this is where I have the MSA Varnish. And then, let's close up the jar of the violet before I do something dangerous and knock it over. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of this, and I'm going to put it in the Set Coat Clear, Palette Deco Clear, Aquastone, and MSA. Now I have used this before in all of these, so I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is to all of these. So might be a little surprise for some though. Okay, Aquastone. Aquastone will take the blue, but because of the opacity, it will bury the metallic. So if you look at that, there's no metallic shine in there. Let's see, what else have I got here? I'm trying to use the same sticks again. In Palette Deco, this is a great product. and it blends into it really, really well. And that is the same with Set Coat Clear. You get these beautiful, and it doesn't really show right now. It shows when it's dry, which I will probably have to do, but look how quick that took it. Now this is a funny pigment too. If you put too much pigment in here and it dries, the pigment will float to the top. You'll still have a completely pigmented coating, but the extra pigment floats to the top, and you kind of have to wipe it off, because if it gets hit with something, the extra pigment will run down, and you want to make sure it doesn't stain whatever you're working on. Okay, here it is in the MSA Varnish. And surprisingly, this one surprised me. It's actually gone into the MSA Varnish. I've used this in, put it in the Ducks solvent-borne acrylic top coat, and the pigment didn't break down at all. It just floated. But I'm assuming that because this MSA Varnish is mineral solvent, it'll take it, but it acts a little like a water-based too, and takes the pigments pretty well. So I was very pleased to see this. So we're gonna do a test here. All right, my water-based brush. Let me wipe off of this. All right, this is the palette Deco. Yeah, this is going to be messy because I keep setting the brush on top of, and the plates on top of what I'm working on, but that's not unusual to see me make a mess. There's the Set Coat Clear. Took the color really nicely, which surprised the bejeebers out of me, because that's not what I was expecting. Aquastone did exactly what I expected it to do, which is take the color, but not the metallic. And you can see I'm mixing it a little with my finger, because I got, I didn't even get the materials completely dissolved in that. The one that surprised me on this was the MSA Varnish. I did not expect this to dissolve into it the way it did, so I'm pretty pleased with that. We'll see when I spread it to see what it does. Or, yeah, no, it broke down in there. That was not what I expected it to do. So that was pretty cool. All right, the next ones, we're gonna look at, let's see, we just did a metallic. This will dissolve in, this will pigment into any, or color into any water-based product, but because the carrier in there is water, it's not going to go into any oil-based binder. It says on the back, shake gently before use, with their binder, which is water-based. And that's what it says. I know this is not something that I want to add with water, because it's already, add with oil, because I know it's already in an oil-based, water-based carrier, so that's not a good combination. We have natural earth pigments, which pretty much go into anything. I don't have those sheets on it, but I know they do. Natural pigments will go into oil or into water without a whole lot of trouble. Traditional oil paint making actually is linseed oil and some other stuff, and you kind of make a paste out of it, and that's what you brush on and wait for it to dry. And it's often used with one of these called a muller, and you scrape it together, grind it together. If you everybody watched Girl with Pearl Earring when they made paint, and they putting linseed oil and other stuff and and the pigments and grinding it on a surface. This is the kind of thing. I think she might have been using a marble one. Irrelevant, but it's a pigment thing, so I thought I'd share. Mixx. Let's see what it says on the back. Obviously I've got a new one, and I didn't bother to take the whole wrapping off, so you get to watch me doing it. Hi Robin, nice to see you. Hi Beth. Not everything I have to say is relevant to every product, and that's the point. Let's see what it says in here. If it does say very specifically, binder-free metallic paste, not ready-to-made paint. Do not dilute. Do not use undiluted. Let's see. This one I know goes into water-based products because I use it in water-based products, but I'm a little interested to see whether or not it will go into this MSA varnish because, again, like I said, sometimes I need to add pigments to clear coats to get colorants, to get layers, sheer layers of colors. I do that with a lot of my work. So we're going to see how that goes. So here is plate. Here's a little MSA varnish. This is going to go in. We're going to see how it takes. And some of this I'm going to have to wait and see how it dries to see whether it affects the way it bonds or not. Most of the time it doesn't if it's just pure pigments. Okay, this goes in really well. Let's see if I can get a color. Goes in really nicely. Takes no separating, no beading, no pilling, so that's good to know. I can use it on there. And grab my oil paint brush. I keep when I do stuff like this, I keep the water base over here and the oil stuff over here so that I don't take my oil-based brush and stick it in water, or my water-based brush and stick it in oil, so I don't crap up my brushes. To put it finely, crapping up my brushes is what I do. All right, so here it is, the MSA Varnish in the gold. And that took the product really, really well. So I'm starting to have like a real love affair with the MSA Varnish because sometimes I'm working with stuff that's not compatible, or if I'm working in metal leaf, I need to have something that protects a tarnishable metal, which is the MSA Varnish, and it allows me to go and put an acrylic coat over it. I can do that with shellac too, but there's only so many times I can use shellac. Sometimes I need something that sort of flows, which the MSA Varnish will do. So that was very cool. So Mixx All Gold can go into oil-based products because there's no binder in it. It says preliminary appropriate testing should be made when using materials sensitive to water or solvent, as well as materials incompatibilities arrive. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm testing. And if I change products, if I change my bases, I will always do a test first to make sure, because this stuff especially has metals in it, and the metals can tarnish. So certain things I don't mix it into because it turns it green like that. Some stuff, if it stays open and is water-based and stays wet for a while, it will turn it green because there's a lot of brass in here. And some stuff is just chemically incompatible with the brass and causes an instant tarnish as well. And that's not necessarily water. It can be solvents. So I always have to test each time I go through something. Let's see. This one, the Faux Effects colors, are truly only for water-based products. This one specifically has an acrylic binder in it. So if you put an acrylic, yes, MSA is solvent-borne acrylic, whereas most solvent-based clear material are PU or alkyd. So I'm sorry, Kate, I'm reading your stuff as you say it to me. So MSA will take pigments that aren't compatible with other stuff. This is the thing. I don't have a lot of oil with. Thank you, Kate. I got you. I don't use a whole lot of oil-based stuff. I try not to use anything that isn't water-based for most of, because in the United States we have what's called VOC laws, and if you're working with a lot of solvent stuff, they're being phased out. So when I have to use something that has a solvent in it, whether it's oil or alcohol or anything else that's not water, I always check my products to see that the pigments that I want to put into them will bind with it, not separate, not fisheye, not do, the basic, oil and vinegar kind of thing. Shake it up, it looks great for a minute, and then you set it down and it splits. So each thing I do, and see, Kate, I knew having somebody like Kate on here would be great because Kate is actually more chemically knowledgeable about some of this stuff than I am. Mine is truly mix it up and hope it doesn't blow up. As you saw, I had to make sure I put out a candle so I didn't light the studio on fire. Like I said, Faux Effects, Faux Cream Color is really only for water-based paints, whether it's plasters or mediums or clear coats or even mixing it into other water-based products, that's fine. But there's acrylic in here, and there is, you know, it's liquid, there's water. So it's not going to go in oil. You're going to have separated salad dressing. I promise you. Let's see, what else do I have left? Oh, my Japanese pigments. The ones that I ordered from Tokyo Pigment. Let's see if I had that thing right there. Hang on. Tokyo Pigment. I didn't get a chance to go to Japan last year or the year before. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before for salon. But everybody raved about Tokyo Pigments, so I went online. And a lot of the pigments I can get here in the United States, but they had great metallics that I really wanted to play with. And the light is not good for this. Let's see if I can get something. They came in envelopes, and I transferred them all into jars that I picked up at Michael's. And I only bought 6 colors because, hell, between the fact that they weren't cheap pigments and the fact that I was having them shipped from Japan, it was getting pricey. So let's take the green one. Don't ask me what it's called. I'll have to look it up. It's called Chroma Shine GR20X, which means it's green. So we haven't played with green. I'm going to take a plate. I don't know what I did with the last one. Welcome to my world. I set something down and I can't find it. So I did color test on the lid just so when I was looking at it, I would have an idea, because I'm used to having some pigments that don't look the same. But I only had 6 of them, so I can put it on a lid instead of a chart. So here we go. We got that. See, Kate's smart. She makes me look better by answering the questions that I can't. So here we go. Little palette Deco clear. Now I know all of these pigments will go into all of, I know this pigment will work one way or the other into these products because I did check their website and it is okay for both solvent and the MSA. I just don't know how it's going to take. Sometimes things take really well, sometimes they don't. I'm sorry for anybody who thought they were going to see me grinding my own pigments. Hell, I don't do that. Why would I do that? If I can get it ground for me, why would I grind my own? And the only time, truly the only time I hit anything with a grinder and a mortar and pestle or the Muller that you saw is when I get pigments that are supposed to be loose and easy to mix and they have hard chunks in it. And I have one of those, one of these from Primary Elements. The red is called Jasper Red, and it's always crunchy and chunky, and it doesn't like to break up well, so I always take it in the mortar and pestle and grind the crap out of it so it disperses better. Otherwise, I find myself, no matter how hard I work on it, I will have big old chunks of the pigment in it, and then it messes up the look. So, Kate wishes, I'll send you Michael's if you'll come over here and help me with pigments. You're better at this than I am. I listen, most of my studio time, yeah, I learn things, but sometimes I learn things the hard way. While I did study fine arts in college, my degree was in design, so I don't always have all the chemistry of stuff, and Kate's really good. I'm glad Kate's having fun, because I like having Kate show up. Kate, for those who don't know her, is an incredibly talented decorative artist in Scotland. One of the funniest people on the face of the earth, and marvelously blunt, which always makes me laugh. And I'm trying not to be rude on top of doing this video because Kate and I are also friends, so I don't want to be like inside jokes or just using bad language because, you know, someday or another my child is going to see this and I don't really want him to see his mother cursing on Facebook Lives. Okay, so let's get some more sticks. I'm going to fresh pigment here. This is the Japanese Tokyo Pigments Chroma Shine Green 20X. Now, the color's gorgeous. Really beautiful metallic. I just want to see how it reads in each product, and I can pretty damn well guarantee you it's not going to read well in the Aquastone. And as soon as I've mixed this up, I'll have a little more conversation about putting metallics into different mediums so that why they work and why they don't. Okay, I put a little bit of each. Oh, look how pretty that color is. Oh, I wish I had a light that actually... Really, Maury? I just dropped it on my... This is totally me. I just spilled pigment. Oh, let's see if I can get where you can see it. I just put a big clump of pigment right here. I am truly not one of God's most graceful gazelles. Because even when I'm trying to be smart, I goof something, and I find it hysterical. So don't ever think I'm picking on myself. I actually find it funny when I mess up. All right, so I'm mixing my pigments in here. All right, in the aqua stone, it is turning it sort of an olivey green color, and all the metallic is disappearing. Not surprising. In the palette Deco, put it down here so you can see. In the palette Deco, it is taking into it beautifully. We're going to have a gorgeous metallic green. And then more sticks. I'm going to set coat clear, which I knew it would take into really nicely. Actually, it takes the palette Deco better, but it takes into the set coat well. Part of the reason I have to experiment with the Japanese ones in all products is simply because I can't read Japanese. I lived there for 3 months and I can't read Japanese. So I wasn't able to determine from the site if there were restrictions on these pigments to what they would mix into. So far, not having any problems. Oh, and it goes into the MSA Varnish really nicely. Now, if I wanted to mix it into the acrylic solvent, solvent-borne acrylic top coat from Dux, I have a feeling I might have a lot more floating because that's what I've had as a pattern in the past. And for the reasons Kate explained, which is more science than my little adult construction-filled brain can really handle right now. All right, so here's the MSA Varnish right there, and it brushed on. Let's see if I can get the angle down. Oh, right here. I gotta pull it forward, sorry. Camera's in reverse for me too. Brush is on, look at that, that's gorgeous. Gorgeous. And then get my water brush out. Yeah, the one thing I'm not being smart about is checking where I'm wiping stuff, so I'm wiping water and acrylic together. I'm so smart. This is the palette Deco Clear. Oh, taking the pigment beautifully. And I expect the Set Coat Clear will do the same. Set Coat Clear is going to do this beautiful, oh, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Put it back in the water, Maury, not in the other stuff. And with Aquastone, it buried the pigment. Okay, I don't know whether I mentioned it earlier, but there's a reason metallics don't go well in stuff like Aquastone or white paint or Venetian plasters unless they're specifically formulated by the manufacturer. It's because these products all have one form or another of an opaque base to them. Aquastone has a white acrylic base to it. Metallics want a transparent base, translucent at the most, meaning cloudy as opposed to completely opaque. It's why you can't take a beautiful metallic blue powder or blue pigment and mix it into white paint and get a light blue metallic, because the white buries the metallic particle. It makes it invisible, as we've seen. Wait, let me knock off the powder here. As you can see right here, all that metallic disappeared. as you can see in the, well, let's see where I'm going. I'm looking at things upside down. Oh, I'm making dribbles and all kinds of stuff. This is what happens. As you can see on these, the metallics show, although it's, there we go. I can get a nice, and look at that Japanese green. It's picking up the colors so prettily. Oh, I'm so in love with that. Okay, sorry, I'm easily distracted by shiny things, bright shiny things. Whose MSA am I using? I did show it earlier, but I'm using Golden's. Golden has been really good. I mean, they're companies that are really great to deal with. Faux Effects has always been terrific to deal with, but I've known their products inside and out, so I don't have to often call for help. Golden's, when I was trying to figure out how to do isolating layers between acrylic paints and solvent paints, was phenomenally helpful with giving me this the MSA Varnish information, and I've been able to use it interspersed with a lot of my work. Like I said, I use a lot of different kinds of products, even though, especially when I'm doing my gilding. Obviously, I'm not a rehearsed speaker, so I'm kind of, when I speak off the top of my head, I kind of have to stop myself from going to another track, because I'm got all kinds of stuff going on up here, and not all of it's terribly relative to what we're talking about right now. But when I do different kinds of work, sometimes I just need to be able to go back and forth between water-based and solvent. If you ask me why, I can't explain to you why I need to go back and forth right now. Sometimes I just do. And I don't need to know why I need to do it until I'm actually doing it. That's just sort of how I work when I'm working on a fine arts piece. I want to mix a little something of this one way, and I want to mix a little something of that the other way. So I always have to do a lot of testing in different products. I would have done this testing, probably not spilled quite so much pigment, or probably would have spilled quite a lot more if I wasn't on camera. But then again, this gives me the opportunity to test a whole bunch of different things at once and show you some of the fun things I play with. Thanks for the info. Thanks, Kate. Never thought of using it that way. That's why I got it. I was trying, when I was trying to work on a veriglamase piece, for those not familiar with that term, it's gilding and reverse painting on glass. I'm doing a Facebook Live on that on Thursday at 4:30, so tune in. I was working with a product from PBO that is an enamel, and it's a solvent enamel, not a water-based enamel. And I was trying to use something over it, and it actually caused it to curl up like potato chips because they weren't user-friendly. It was the Dux solvent-borne acrylic that I was trying to tint and use over the PBO moon colors or pearl things that they have that are enamels. And it caused the enamel to curl like this. So I needed to find something that would allow me to put different layers of stuff to have these lovely drifts that I like to create in transparent materials. And I got on the horn with Golden, and they gave me this information, and it has yet to fail me when I need to layer colors. It's terrific. For those who are not familiar with this, again, I'll remind you that this MSA Varnish is solvent with, or soluble by using mineral spirits even after it's dry. So if you're using it for a permanent top coat, that's not the thing to do. Once you put it on, you're going to have to put another top coat over it because somebody comes by and wipes something down with little mineral spirits and you lose your top coat. Or you brush something over, you're painting something over it, some paints that you thinned with mineral spirits, you're going to dissolve the top coat. So just fair warning on this. All the water-based products dry cured hard within 30 days. They're all up to US VOC standards. And I think I've kind of come to the end of this right now. It's been great seeing everybody. Oh, Kate, I'm so glad I solved a problem for you. Yeah, I solve problems because I usually don't blow things up, but I have some really interesting failures that have caused me some really cool effects, but then I can't replicate them, so I have to find ways to keep them from happening again. It's great to see everybody. So you can see back in the studio. Fortunately, the construction guys have been terrific working here. They've kept the volume of it down, knowing I was doing a live. They know I'm not going to bug them again tomorrow, that I'll come back and do one again in a couple of days. And then I'm off teaching in Kentucky for Martin at the Decorative Finishes Studio down in Louisville, Kentucky. We're doing our Timeless Creations. It's a 5-day, 30 finish class. It's the only class in the industry that has our unique business practices dinner, where we cover not just the ability to make a pretty finish, but how to sell it and how to keep your clients, how to work with your clients, how to handle contracts, all that sort of fun stuff. It's been a while since I've done a live, so I'm forgetting how I sign off of these. So I guess I'm just going to say thanks for tuning in and goodbye.